February Kumwade for the weekend of February 8th, 2014. Let's take a look at how markets closed for Friday. Dow up, another positive, nice gain, 1% for the day. The Nasdaq was up 1.7. S&P 500 was up 1.33. We see that crude oil was up about 2% and the VIX was down about 11%. Let's take a look at the charts here. And let's begin by taking a look at the Nasdaq weekly, where we see that the weekly lows line that I had drawn last week seems to be holding, surprisingly, and also the possibility that the market could go above 69.10 after holding this support line here, which also happens to be somewhere around this level here. And also don't forget that the market did finally manage to get back above the 10-week moving average. So honestly, it looks very constructive just given the data there based on how we're going to trade for the new week. But for now, the market did close the week after a nice reversal. If we take a look at the daily for the Nasdaq, we are now back above this previous buy point of 40.68. So we are holding above that. We are also back above the 50-day moving average, and we are also finding support on the lows line here on the daily RSI. And as you can see, going back to November of 2013, this has been nice entry point in the market. Each time we bounced off this line, this is where you had to have been long just based on data right here. You can see each instant we bounced off the line was where the market would bounce from that level. And surprise, surprise, it looked like early on in the week this was breaking down, but it managed somehow to recover there. So we see that is support. And also nice day to the upside because we see the market closing above 50 on the daily RSI. So the thing that we have to watch here going into Monday is this line here. This line has the possibility of being backtest right there. That blue line. Why do I say backtest? Because we broke below it, we've got come back, and now we are on the underside of this line. So this could be where around here over the next day or two into the new week we'll see whether this is going to be resistance or not. If we take a look at the Nasdaq 60-minute chart, we see we are back at this general area here where we had stalled previously. So one way or the other we'll find out early part of the new week whether this is still going to be resistance. If you take a look at the top lines here, ever since the market jumped above this declining RSI line on the hourly, it had a nice move, and I was expecting resistance somewhere around here. We seem to have moved above that. So depending on how we trade for the next couple of trading hours, this is so far looking decent here. But now if you take a look at this 30-minute for the Nasdaq, you see that this was a previous break point there to this general area here on the 30-minute, which is this high. So we draw a straight line from the break point like that, and you see that we had stalled here previously, which was this high, and we are back in this general area. So depending on how we open on Monday going into Tuesday, if this turns around and has a reversal there, then this is also going to suggest that this could be a short-term high in the market. If you take a look at the Dow Daily, the takeaway here is it held the 200-day moving average. It's also above the previous buy point to the upside there. So it seems like this was, we can look at this now probably being a trap below that and back above it. So that could have been a trap. See what happens in the next couple of trading sessions here, but the fact that we are above this previous buy point here is encouraging for those who want to see the market moving higher. If we take a look at the daily and show you the line where the Dow right here is where the Dow has been bouncing going back to 2012 November. We bounced off once here, which was this low. We come and bounce off this level here, which was here, bounced off this level, which was this low, and you can see we bounced off that level here. So which makes sense that maybe over time this market can move higher. Now the one quick observation I can make here is if you draw the line here like that, you can see that this general area here could be resistance where the RSI is trading, because if you draw a line like that, this could end up being some level of resistance here on the daily as the new week begins. And that is because if we take a look at the Dow 60-minute, and the 60 minutes seems to be telling us a different picture here. This is where the Dow has been stalling here, that general area. Maybe I can draw it a little bit lower, because it is where the Dow right here, beginning of 2014, and it stalled twice on that line here and here, which happened to be these highs here. So you can see the hourly RSI is back in this general area. If it holds above that, that's bullish. If it reverses and stays like that, then that's bearish. A quick look at the transportation index, Dow Transports, and you can see here this line held on the weekly chart, so that's good support right there. And we also see that this line here on the RSI lows has also held, so that's looking decent. Take a look at the Dow Transports from a daily view, and you can see that just like the Dow itself and the Nasdaq, this is where it's been finding support, and that seems to be holding. Take a look at the S&P 500 weekly, and you can see for the week we ended up almost a percentage point to the upside, and the RSI weekly has held right there. So early on in the week, the market was trading below 50 here, as the market was cracking that level, but somehow it managed to bounce, hold back above 50, and actually close positive. So as of the weekly close, that held. Now the only trick here is maybe eventually it cracks below that, but as long as it's holding above this level, it's actually very constructive for anybody who's looking to go long. Also, we held at the 33-week moving average. A quick look at the S&P 500 daily, and probably we start seeing on the daily here, depending on how you draw this, right there is where it's been bouncing over the last 13 months. And so if it can hold above that level, that's good. The thing is, if it reverses here, then that could be a sign that for the first time it's not holding above the blue line. It's been holding above the blue line going back to the entire period during this nice rally over the last 13 months. It's been holding with lows every time it bounced off this line here. Nice entry points on each instant. So we'll see whether this continues being a case. As of right now, it's back above that line, so maybe it's holding and doing what it's been doing over the last 13 months or so. S&P 500 hourly chart, and just like the Dow, all we need to do is draw a straight line from the previous breakpoint. The breakpoint was from here, because that's a high there, and so you see we've stalled a couple of times there, actually once before, which was here, and so this was this high there, right here. So if the market can hold above that, that's bullish. If it rolls over like that, beginning part of the new week, then this becomes a sell period or a sell point, and more than likely we might reverse to the downside. Now let's take a look at the Brazilian chart on the daily, and you can see that if we take the highs on the intraday basis here and here and through here, draw a straight line, you see we came all the way down here, and recently over the last couple of days we bounced off that line there, which is interesting. And then also we see that we are trading in this channel here, which is a nice wedge. So an argument can be made that over time this could be enough to generate a breakout to the upside. We'll see what happens, but don't forget that we have declining 50-day moving average, and we also have a declining 200-day moving average. So the direction remains to the downside, but with the possibility of a bounce. Now if we take a look at this bounce from here all the way to here, which was a nice move short term, you see that this bounce began here. Draw a straight line, and you see that the market has found support precisely at that point. So that makes sense that we are starting to move to the upside. So we'll see how we're going to trade over the next couple of days and weeks, but more than likely initial challenge is going to come at the highs based on this daily top line on the price channel there. Now if we take a look at another world market, let's take a look at the French market from a daily chart. You see that we bounced off the 200-day moving average, which is a nice. We also seem to have held this previous high here, so this general area, which you can draw it also like this. This general area standing to support. Don't forget, again, the 200-day moving average is holding there. So all those are good signs, and we seem to have found some type of improving technical picture here as the prices were about to make fresh lows. So I think based on this, we can say this is trying to build a base, and so we can't necessarily say that the market is going down. If you take a look at the same French market from a weekly chart, notice that we've held above the 33-week moving average, which is good. We've also held this line here, which are the lows on the RSI on the weekly. Now early in the week we were breaking down, but by the close of the week we seem to have held that line. Now this line has been very successful in holding this market together since 2012. So we have to respect the fact that the market is trying to come back precisely where you'd expect support to be. Now if we take a look at another world market, this time let's take a look at the German market, the DAX on the daily, and you can see support coming from this line here, and this line has been support once before, which was here. Don't forget it was a nice entry point to the upside when we broke out there. So this breakout based on this line continues to be holding. We've held once before when we bounced off this line, when we bounced off here to new highs, and now we seem to have bounced off here and trying to move again. So very constructive price pattern. If you take a look at the fact that this line here has been where we've been finding support, this line here that I'm drawing, as you can see from this low was a nice entry point, was a nice entry point here, which was this low here, very close here, which was this entry point, and you can see now we are bouncing off that line. We touched it, uniform action back above it, so one can argue that this is very constructive support. Take a look at the German market from a weekly chart, and again you see that we seem to be holding this trend line here. This line was breaking down at the beginning of the week, but by the end of the week you see that it's holding, and that seems to be the theme all over the place. So more than likely it seems to be that the markets are trying to hold what was a breakdown mode. Take a look at the Hong Kong market. Earlier we had seen it break below after failing to hold this breakout here, so this turned into a sell. What's interesting is after a couple of weeks we seem to be finding support on this line here, which connects the lows on a weekly closing basis. So draw a straight line, we seem to have found support precisely here intraday or during the week. That's very interesting. Also this level here on the RSI right there has been constructive support. It was support here, which is this low. It was support here, which is this low here, and again we seem to be wanting to hold that level. So we have to respect that irrespective of our own feelings about where the market should be. Take a look at the London market, and you see again same scenario. The lows on the RSI seem to be holding on the, as far as the weekly is concerned. Let me draw that right here. So this is still holding, so that's, this here is at the line, so that should be enough if it holds to continue moving this market to the upside. Remember, if it cracks here again, then that's going to be a fresh break and a reason to stay or to continue looking for the market to go down. As of right now, I think the market is trying to find some place where it could find a floor before it moves higher. Take a look at the Indian market here, and you can see that it is holding the 200-day moving average, which is constructive. Now if we take a look at the QQQ, interestingly here we are holding above this trend line here, and you can see once we broke out above this level here, we became very extended. We've stayed above this line and we've come all the way back, bounced off this line, and seem to be wanting to move to the upside. So that's very constructive just from that understanding that this extended move is still holding together. Also, we can see that if we draw a line from the tops of the RSI on the weekly for the QQQ like that, you see that once we moved above this line here, that was a nice entry point. That was beginning of October, so which happens to be somewhere around here, and we've stayed above that line and bounced off it this last week. So that could be a reason why the market is trying to hold above this level, also recapturing the level above 69.10. So interesting that the market is holding above that price channel trend line. And on the daily, take a look at this. Just draw a straight line from the lows here. So that blue line that I'm drawing, in fact, let me make it a double blue line so you don't get confused with the other line. So that line there has been very nice. Entry point here, which was this low, support here, which was this low here, and recently the double bottom on the daily, and also moving above 50, which might explain why Friday was seeing such a nice trend to the upside at some point. So let me take that off. So having said that, take a look at the idea that Friday's move could be a trap, because if you draw the line this way, now you see this line here, you see that this was a nice support, was support here. Once we established those 2 points, draw a straight line, so it was a nice entry point here to the for a nice bounce. So we broke down below that line here, we've come all the way back and are now trading underneath this line. So if resistance is held over here, more than likely, or the possibility of this developing into a sell point is very high. So we'll see what happens. Now another way you can look at this is if you draw a straight line from the break point here. So there was a trend break right there. Draw a straight line and you see that the highs on Friday could be significant highs short term, because it's back to the break point on the price and also back to the back test of this trend line break. I hope all that makes sense. Another way to take a look at this is to consider the Qqq hourly chart. And what you see here is this was a break point right there, this red area. Why? Because it connects to the highs here. So this was the high here, which connects to this break point. So the market stalled here and made a high. So we are coming back on an hourly chart to this back test of this previous sell point in the market. So more than likely this could be resistance, and over the next couple of days, maybe beginning Monday, we might start seeing this market pulling back. Another way to take a look at this is on the hourly. You see that this could be back test of this line after breaking down here below the line. Breaking down there, we've moved above and touched that line once and made lows. So we've come all the way back. So if this doesn't hold, then more than likely we get that pullback. The strongest argument that I have to try and explain why the market could move higher is the VIX. And I say that because the VIX is back below 18.14, which was this daily closing high. So we started the week with a breakout, but by the end of the week we had broken below that level, which was a failed breakout, and we also came below the secondary support level, which was the previous short-term daily high. So we broke below level 1 and closed back below level 2, which is very bearish for the VIX. And also the reason why we had a big close, about 11%, is because the VIX slashed below 50 on the daily. So this looks very bearish for the VIX and bullish for the general market. Another reason why you might say this is bullish for the market is because of the way the double top here on the daily for the VIX, this double top is uniform action above the line, back below it, above the line, and back below it. So because that is double uniform action, I think this is a serious sell signal. And more than likely, the VIX is telling us it's safe to play the market to the long side until you see the VIX trying to set up for another move. Also consider the weekly chart for the VIX. As you can see on the weekly, we were trying to hold above this weekly closing high of 18.90, and just like previously, we had stalled here and we had a big drop in the VIX and a push to the upside in the general market, and we see the same thing taking place here. Can't hold, and you see it failing to hold those levels. So more than likely, the message here is that the VIX is telling us the market is safe to play on the upside. Also forgetting that, or not forgetting that, this is where previously the VIX stalled. So that line there corresponds to the highs recently here, which is this high here, which is this high, and this double top here, which was this high, and also the break of that line here, which was this messy highs here. So all to say, it looks like the VIX is telling anybody who's watching this, if you're going to use the VIX for a tell, that the VIX has stalled and that the general market wants to move to the upside. Let's take a look at Apple here. For the week was up almost 4-5%. I think the reason why it was up is because it moved back above 50 on the weekly RSI, which is good. Seems to be holding above the 33-week moving average, which is also decent. Take a look at the daily, and you see that on the daily we have held this general area here, and in fact, if you extend that general area to this level here, you see that here was a nice entry point for a short-term move. Here was a nice entry point again here, which was this nice entry point, was support here, nice entry point there, and you can see we went below the line and back above it with uniform action, so that makes this a nice short-term entry point. Now let's take a look at this from an hourly chart, and we start seeing that there's some sign that this could be stall point, just like the entire market. If we draw a line right there, you can see that we stalled here on the RSI, which corresponds to this high here on the hourly, resistance here, and stall point, which was this high, resistance here, which is this high here, and recently, or the last couple of hours, it's holding and stalling around this level. So if this thing rolls over like that, then this becomes another high. The thing to be careful here is maybe it could break out, and if it does, it's a buy. If it breaks out above that, then it's a buy, because what should be resistance now becomes an entry point to the upside. But for now, we have to look at this as resistance, which is what it's forming, and we have to go by what the chart looks like. So see signs of resistance right there. Don't forget, on the long-term monthly chart, going back to the early 90s, this level here has been bearish for the stock right there, and you can see it was a sell here in 2000, which is there, sell point here in 2008, which is there, and you can see late 2013, early 2014, that's a sell point there. So we'll see whether that is going to hold the stock down for the rest of the year, or at least for the next coming weeks and months. So we'll see how things are going to go. That's the end of the free portion. The rest of the video is going to be for subscribers only. Otherwise, good luck, peace, and blessings. Enjoy your weekend. I am out for some of you. Woo!